at Clemson University. I work with the men's side. I appreciate all you guys for joining this call. So we have the way that this call is going to work is we're going to have two people. We have Coach Lucas McKay. He's an assistant at UMKC, and Lucas was a manager at UNCW. He was a high school assistant for a year and worked in Wright State as an administrative assistant and filled just about every hat he possibly could at Clemson. And now he's an assistant at UMKC. And then we're also going to have Lane Wilson, who is a video coordinator for the Philadelphia 76ers. He was a manager at Georgia. He was a GA at Georgia, and then he was an intern for the Pistons G League affiliate, and then he became an assistant with the Pistons G League affiliate, and then this past season he became a video coordinator with the Philadelphia 76ers. First, we have Coach Lucas McKay.
Thanks, Jake. Hey, everybody. First of all, I hope everybody's safe and healthy. Obviously, these are unprecedented times, not only in our country, but around the world. And hopefully that's helping put basketball into perspective. And I think it's all going to help us all just appreciate it even more when things do get back to normal. Appreciate the kind words, Jake. I think I'll jump right into it. One, I think if you're a manager and you're trying to move up in this business, you got to realize one thing. I think you're going to get out of the experience, the managerial experience, what you put into it. And I think that if you don't put a lot into it, I think you'll walk away with probably some good memories, probably being a part of some good games. If you're at the highest of high levels, maybe a lot of gear that you don't know what to do with when you're done. But otherwise, if you're really into it, and it seems like if you guys would take the time to be on this call that you are, you can really get a lot of things out of it. I think you can make a lot of connections. You can build habits that I think will be important going into the real world. And two, I think you can create memories of a lifetime. I think you got to, first of all, in terms of the connections piece, that starts with whatever program you're a part of right now, making sure that you get to know all those people, full-time people in your program the best you can, and make sure they know you. Just sitting down and talking with them, picking their brains. I'm really fortunate in that, my boss here at Kansas City, Billy Donlin, was an assistant when I was a manager, and we just continued to stay in touch and eventually being a part of different staffs. He got a shot to run his own program, but we stayed in touch and just always willing to be available and be helpful, be reliable. I think those are all really important things. I'll share a quick story. We had a manager at Clemson who's now a graduate assistant at another Division I school. I'll never forget talking to him 3 summers ago. He had graduated from Clemson. He had moved into the corporate world, had a really good job, making a really, really good salary. And he just called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I'm miserable. Can you help me find something?" And, we worked the phones and, got him to where he is now, and he'll have a chance to get something to move up administratively here in D1, hopefully this year. And, but if he wouldn't have sold out to the program and gave us everything he had as a manager, I don't know that I'm making that call to try to help him, just to be honest with you. So just make sure that, you're selling out to your program, selling out to the people that are above you. Remember who's giving you the opportunity, because at the end of the day, that's where the loyalties need to lie. They've given you a chance to be a part of something special. I mean, there's only 353 Division I schools. So to be a part of Division I basketball, it really is a privilege. And just make sure you're treating it like the most important job you'll ever have. Even though you're a student, you have other responsibilities. Just make sure you're taking it seriously. I think secondly, find ways to add value to your program. Every program has different needs. I've been a part of programs that have had as few as 1 or 2 managers to being at the highest level where we had as many as 12. And we really, different programs use managers different ways. Find ways where you can help your program, make the lives above you, the people above you rank wise, easier. And you never know what you'll learn along the way doing that. I think that's really important. I talked about loyalty. Even though I mentioned loyalty second, loyalty probably, at least to me personally, that's number one. Make sure you're staying loyal. Make sure you know where your allegiances lie, and always having the back of the head coach with the players in the locker room with the other managers. You always have to have that head coach's back. That's really, really important. And then obviously my last thing is you got to put in the work. Like it's not just going to happen for you. You've got to continually to make yourself well-rounded and continually push yourself to take on a new challenge this year. Like Jake Cerota will be a senior next year. He's done a lot as a young guy, and rightfully so. That's why he's earned the title. But he needs to find a way to be a part of new things next year in the program, just to help his own portfolio, his own foundation as he goes through the profession. Don't ever, and I know a lot of you all do not, but don't ever look at it as any task being too small. I think one way as a young guy in the business, before I got even a GA or a full-time job, just really tried to separate myself by doing the things that no one else wanted to do and taking pride in that. For example, when I was a manager, one thing that I knew right when I got out of my afternoon class, we practiced at 3 o'clock every day. As soon as I get out of my class at 1 o'clock, I'm going over to the gym and I'm going to go ahead and, wet mop the floor. And I know that maybe that sounds silly, but it was just something that and I didn't do it like for the attention of doing it. I'm doing it because where I went to school on the coast, it was a very humid place. So the court would get really slick a lot of the year. So just wanted to find a way to add some value. And I think that's carried over. And I think you just find little things that you can do to help your program in any way you can. I think that's the biggest thing. And the best advice I ever received from my former boss, who was awesome, he always told me, hey, don't ever worry about the next job. The next job will take care of itself if you do a great job in the job you have. And I've really taken that to heart, and I hope you guys will too. I'm always available. Certainly, this is a group that I'm involved with. Coach Gordon's done a great job of getting rising coaches off the ground and doing unbelievable things with it. I'm happy to be a part of it. So however I can be a resource, please don't hesitate to let me know. My email is McKay, LMCKAY, at umkc.edu. Would love to hear from you guys and your journeys and your, what your future dreams are. And look forward to listening to the rest of the panelists.
Awesome. Thank you, Lucas. I really appreciate you. Lane, are you on the call?
Yep, I'm here.
All right. Lane Wilson.
All right, hey, everybody. Thanks, Jake, for inviting me over to the panel, kind of share whatever limited knowledge that I can offer. A lot of this stuff is probably going to echo what Lucas kind of went over, but some points I really want to highlight on is kind of like thriving within your own network. It is pretty difficult to find positions and jobs kind of outside of the group of coaches that you know, because a lot of that has to do with trust. When coaches make suggestions or they want to hire people, especially in like GA roles, they want to put people in that they know, that they trust, and that they can rely on. And a lot of that time, that typically comes from people within their own program or from coaches of those that they've built relationships with in the past that they really trust their opinion on. When I was at Georgia, the way I went from manager to grad assistant, kind of staying in and elevating, was one summer, I think it was around going into my senior year. A lot of people in our program take off for the summer. They're doing a bunch of different things. They're going to camps. And one of our assistant coaches recommended just staying around because summer workouts are going on. And especially if none of the other managers were around, like that was a chance to, one, build connections with all the assistants. And then when I was there with Coach Fox, like anything he needed during that stretch during the summer, he was coming to me for. And so during that time, I'm making the impression, and you're associating yourself with things that can get you ahead, that when the time comes to promote or get a job and they say, hey, what about this guy? What comes to mind is he's been around, I know him, he gets the job done, and I can rely on him. And at the same time, within that, you're also trying to put the impression on that you're trying to do more than what your role is. And so during that time as well, I was in the office a lot, looking over our other GA, looking over his shoulder while he was doing the video work, seeing what he was doing, and then kind of thinking to myself of, can we make this better? Can we improve it? And then I got that knowledge base. And then when I was up for the position, I could go forward and say, hey, coach, like, this is where our video program is at right now. I think I can take it to this spot. Like, this is all the stuff I've done. And I think it really put me in a good position to separate myself to where coach didn't really have to consider other options. He had a guy right there in front of him. And then also within that time period, you're building those relationships, not just with your head coach, but your assistants as well, the people that can also vouch for you. And a lot of the time you're going to be interacting with these people in a work environment, but anytime you can get a chance to connect with people outside of the office or even just outside of normal working hours, I really think is when you can build up a higher trust level and really grow those relationships. The GA there that really vouched for me for the position when he was done, I built a really good relationship with, because I was willing to stay sometimes late at night while he's getting video work done or he needed extra help. And so we're in the office, you know, at 12, 1 a.m. Like, those are the special times where you're developing that non-work relationship to where you have personal trust between those people. And the same goes with assistant coaches as well. Anytime they ask you to do something outside of it, or if they say, hey, you want to come along for this, unless I had something really pressing going on, I was willing to drop basically whatever I was doing and then take advantage of that opportunity, because that's when you really get to know people in more intimate settings and get to know more as people, as opposed to I show up and we're just in the office all day just doing basketball. And that way, once again, you're kind of building that association, building that trust level, that when they say, hey, when I think of this guy, like, he checks all the boxes off and can get stuff done, I really think that helps people get ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, Lane. I appreciate you. For this next part of the call, what we're going to do is we're going to break it down to breakout sessions. So about 4 to 5 people. See, we got 41 people, so about 4 to 5 people.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you, buddy. Yeah, so we can't do the breakout rooms on this call, unfortunately. But what we can do is a group discussion. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, that works out perfectly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess so. Instead of the breakout room, maybe we'll just have if someone wants to just to unmute themselves, I guess, and just everyone can just talk about, you know, things that they have found successful in their programs, whether you're a manager or former manager, things that you have found successful and things that you think that can help you get to that next level, whether that be a GA or whatever role you seek next.
Let's do it like this. If you guys have something you want to share, maybe drop your name in the chat, and that way we won't be talking over each other. And I apologize for the technical difficulties. Next time we do this, we'll be able to break you guys out into your own private rooms. So, Matt Barnthouse.
Yeah. Am I still muted? Or can y'all hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Loud and clear. So I'm someone that's been bounced around a lot. And for those that are currently managers, I just remember saying something really stupid my senior year. It was, I'm only going to go for a GA at Power 5 schools. And I was an idiot. I had no idea what was going on. And so my original plan was, I was at Ole Miss for 4 years, got to work for Andy Kennedy, which was great because he's kind of off the beaten path, and I'm someone who's off the beaten path if you spend more than 3 minutes in a room with me. But going back was, so I thought I was going to stay at Ole Miss as a GA. Former player retires 2 weeks before graduation. Well, I guess no, it was 2 weeks before the season ended. Poop! I got to find somewhere else to go. Luckily, I went to the Rising Coaches event the summer before. I connected with someone who worked at Cincinnati, Greg Yankowski, wonderful human being. They didn't have a GA spot, but I put in my work in the classroom. So put your work in the classroom because you never know how you can make it work. I got a full academic scholarship, got to teach 2 classes, and then I got to do graphics on the side for UC while also building more connections. Mick Cronin's staff leaves at the end of my tenure at Cincinnati to UCLA. They don't take me, but the new staff, John Brandon's staff, comes in. They're so impressed with what I do that they already made their decision on who got the jobs. Once again, I've been bounced around. But while those people in the summer, while I was scrounging for spare change, I got to go in and help them out with video work, recruiting stuff. And so I'm building relationships there. And what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter how much you get pushed around, bounced around. I'm selling coats for a living right now. But whatever you do, you got to be the best in the world at what you do. It doesn't matter if you're doing that mop. It doesn't matter if you're just driving around a player around. You want to build that relationship. I think too many times we treat everything like we have a master plan, and that master plan, oh, it's going to work out because we do this, this, and this. But in the end, it's the core values we have. It's the attitude we have, and everything you do, you got to do to the max. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to sit there and wonder, did you make the right decisions? But at the end of the day, all you can do is you live, you learn, you love, and we could even go full white 45-year-old mom here, and we can live, laugh, and love. I don't know. I think I need to come up with a better way to close this out, but yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Aaron Stevens, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm fortunate enough to work every day with Jake Cerota, and got the pleasure to learn everything I know under Lucas McKay. He was the ops guy when I was a manager at Clemson, and just the part of the story I want to echo everything Lane and Lucas said, but the other part of the story is just, you never know you gotta always be ready for anything. So I'm now one of the GAs at Clemson, and my story was we had 2 first-year GAs my senior year. So I kind of was in a position where I'm, the whole season, obviously thinking about my next step. It was always in the back of my mind, and I was, nervous like all of you guys, trying to figure out, what your next move is going to be. Well, so I knew I wasn't staying at Clemson because, we had 2 first-year GAs. Well, season ends, and both GAs get different jobs. So they leave town, and we're going on a international trip within the next 2 months. So coaches, got to make 2 quick hires in GAs. And so that's kind of how I was lucky enough to stay on here at Clemson. So just even if you think that, the school you're at isn't going to be the school that, you end up staying at, you never know what could happen. And just the things that I think that I did that kind of made me, coach's top candidate, what helped me stay around was just 2 things. Is one, always be there. And, this is something Jake does a great job of at Clemson. If you're not in class, like I know everybody's got a lot of school stuff going on and, a lot of academic responsibility, but do that work at the office if possible. And, if you can be what I would do is I would sit in the same room that our GAs work at, in the GA office. And that way, when the coaches come in, I'm able to hear what they're assigning the GAs, and I get to see the tasks that they're doing and how they approach their work and just kind of how the whole operation works. Because a lot more is going on than you really realize. My first year as a manager, I probably didn't do a great job of being there as much as I should have. But what you learn is that, you, just like Lucas said, you get out of it what you put into it. So if you're there and you're, when the coaches walk by and they see that your face is just one of the faces that are always there, then they're going to treat you like you're really a part of it. So you got to make yourself a part of it in a way, because nobody's gonna, force you to be there or anything. So I would just encourage you guys to always be there, and then just always try to. I think the thing that helped me the most was learning the video. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I wasn't a great player or anything, but what gave me an advantage was, as a manager, I learned sports code, and I just, learned the ins and outs of it. And so that way, when it was time to make that hire, they didn't have to bring somebody else in that, there wouldn't be as much of a learning curve there, because I knew it myself. And then 2, I was able to kind of teach the other GA that we brought in, who was a former player, a lot of sports code. So I would encourage you guys, whatever video platform you use, whether it's Synergies, Exos, Sports Code, just learn it, know it the best you can, because you never know what could happen. So that's all I got.
Awesome, Aaron. Thank you for sharing. Brandon Byer. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me? Just picking me up? Okay, cool. Yeah, for everybody who doesn't know me, I'm Brandon Byer. I'm a former manager from the University of Missouri. I also was a GA there, and I'm coaching freshman basketball back at the high school that I went to. I just wanted to just piggyback off what Aaron said at the end there when he was talking about video. To me, that's a huge, huge crucial aspect for you guys that are currently managers or guys who are aspiring, guys and girls who are aspiring to be GAs. Any video that you guys can learn, I think, is super valuable because as a manager, like when I first started out, I was just doing, basic offense, defense, just logging baseline out of bounds, like sideline out of bounds stuff. And that experience of logging those games and helping our BC out really enabled me to step into the position in my second year as a GA when we lost our video guy to then step into that role. And I was basically a GA video guy at the same time. So again, I think any video experience you can get, whether it's just logging simple offense, defense, and then you start to progress, maybe you go a little bit more advanced and whatnot. And anytime you can help out a VC or a video coordinator, that's super helpful to them too, because they're under a lot of stress and they're dealing with a lot of things that you guys may not always know about. So any help that you can give to your video coordinators and build that trust, I think is super valuable for anyone who's trying to become a GA. And also, like Matt said, like, even though I was a GA at Missouri, like don't shy away from opportunities at, per se lower levels. Like always be on the prowl looking for opportunities, no matter where it is. Like Coach McKay said at the beginning too, like whatever you put into the opportunity, you're going to get out of it. So whether you go, Division I, you're a GA, or Division III, you're a GA, or what, be successful if you put the time in. So for you guys, I would learn as much video as possible. I think you guys will set yourselves up really nice when you're trying to look for GA spots, and then so on and so forth in your coaching careers.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon. Will Durham.
Yeah, I'm right here. Can you guys hear me, see me? Cool. So I'm Will. I am a current head manager at Kennesaw State University. It's a mid-major. It's in the Atlantic Sun Conference. I just want to share my journey. I was actually, I started my freshman year like most of us do. And but heading into my sophomore year, all the higher up guys that were upper either graduated or left. And so me and my buddy were actually head managers as sophomores. And we had to go through a lot of stuff, and we had to travel. And as mid-majors, you only travel 1 or 2 managers per trip. And so we went on pretty much every trip. And I quickly learned that connections through other teams and other coaches are so highly important. I've traveled to this past year, we went to Iowa, and I met an assistant coach and a radio guy from Iowa, and, hoping to be able to connect with them later on down the road. There are a lot of teams in our conference. Liberty is one team in our conference that has a lot of area to hire people like GAs and things like that. And I know we all know about the manager games thing on Twitter that we have relationships with through playing those games and stuff like that. And so there's, any way you guys can make connections is so vitally important. I'm at Kennesaw State now, and hopefully I can either stay here or be able to have a GA job with this last senior year that's coming up. So just make sure you guys, video also very important. I learned that early on to be able to do that, and just, no matter what happens, just be there, first one there, last one to leave. I think that's all of our mottos. So, but yeah, so thank you guys.
I appreciate it. That was good stuff. Garrett Grimsley.
Yes, sir. How do I go ahead? Do I share my screen? Is that how this works here? I'm a little new to this.
No, you're good. You're good. You talking and it shows up.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, sorry about that. I'm a little late. I joined a little late to the chat, but I caught the very tail end of what kind of Coach McKay was talking about no task being too small. So I just finished up my 4th year at Illinois State, kind of being the head manager for the last 3 years. I kind of fell into it as a sophomore, like Will did. But probably the biggest thing that I would say to younger managers is I really want to piggyback off of what Coach McKay said, is like no task is too small. You just have to kind of get over the small tasks. And if you can do that by bringing a positive attitude to everything, you never know what could happen. I want to share just a quick story how I kind of met Coach McKay, and we were down in the Cayman Islands 2 years ago. We were playing Georgia, and we were getting our stuff kicked in by about 30 points. And it was in the second half, and we had made a little run, and we got it, I think, to maybe 16 or so. And it was just one of those timeouts. And we only had 2 guys on the bench at the time. And I'm kind of running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And I had no idea who was watching or anything. And just after the game, I'm at the stats table, and Coach McKay comes up to me and introduces himself to me, and we exchanged contact information. And then next thing I know, I'm down at Clemson last summer working camp with Jake and Aaron, and meeting all those guys down there. So probably just one thing I want everybody to take away is you never know who's watching. And even if things aren't going well or you're not doing a task you like, if you can bring a positive attitude to it, there's a good chance you're going to be rewarded in one way or another. So that's all I got to share. Love the discussion though so far.
Awesome. Thank you, Garrett. Adam, Gage.
What's up, y'all? I'm a former manager at Florida Gulf Coast University, also in the Atlantic Sun Conference. I'm currently a GA at Morehead State. I just want to talk about my journey. Kind of wanted to play basketball coming out of high school. Didn't happen. Tried walking on, didn't work. Ended up being a manager for 4 years. Didn't want to do coaching at all. Wanted to work in sports, but in the medicine type aspect of it. That didn't end up happening, and then ended up taking a position out of Florida Gulf Coast as a volunteer assistant at a junior college. Just wanted to give you my background on that. I know everyone wants the big GA, big type deal, but through that experience that I had, having no type of income, living with the players, getting meals provided to me that the players got, and having housing was really all that I needed. So taking any little opportunity, no matter what is offered to you, just taking that chance. Of course, you don't know essentially what that chance is going to bring you, but in the end, it was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had working, and just a great experience working with one of the best junior college coaches and staffs in junior college. Just learned a ton, experienced a ton. And that led me to actually meeting Adam Gordon. Adam Gordon was an assistant at the College of Central Florida as well. So without essentially having that path paved, I probably wouldn't have met Coach Gordon the way I met Coach Gordon. So it was a unique experience to actually meet someone who's made something like this happen. And he essentially led me to get the position I am at right now at Morehead State. So just embrace the little experiences. I know that everyone is eyeing that big job and eyeing that big GA ship, and just take whatever opportunity is given to you. I know that I was late to the party. I didn't get that job opportunity until June. I had taken another job prior to that, so I was working away from home at that time, and then came back from that opportunity and then started right away. But also to reiterate what everyone has said in here that has talked is that no task is too small. I tell our managers that we only had 3 managers this year. Everyone likes to do the big and bad things, but just embrace that. Really, really embrace no task is too small, no task is too big. So I just love that mantra to all the managers. Just live by that. Like, whatever you do, small or big, is greatly appreciated. And we know you work your butt off no matter what, being a part of that program. So that was just a little bit of my story. So I appreciate the time, appreciate Adam for doing this for us.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. I just want to say just one thing real quick before I get to James next. Something I've been thinking about is, like, in this time, like, where we're all kind of just stuck in the house, this is a great opportunity for everybody to really network with each other. And I think it's especially important that managers network with other managers and get to know other managers, because you never know how that network and that friendship that gets built could help you in the future, because in 5 years, 10 years, like, we're all going to be in the same like position, and you never know how that could help you in the future. So I think building this connection, this friendship now is incredibly important. With that, I'm going to turn the mic over to James Herring.
Hey, can everyone hear me? We're good. So Jake, thanks for saying that. I was actually going to say that. So it's one less thing I can say, but real quick about me, I'm the Dobo at Dayton. I just started here last summer. Before that, I spent 2 years at Jacksonville State in the OVC. Before that, I was at Illinois for 3 as a GA and the ops guy. And before that, I was a manager at West Virginia. I know some of you I've actually kind of connected with at different points, probably in my career, you know, and maybe talked on the side. But I just had 2 things with going through the process of trying to, you know, go from being a student manager to being a GA. But if you're an underclassman right now, that's maybe a sophomore or junior, you're not graduating this year. You know, if there's places where you feel you have a connection to, potentially from like a previous staff member that you worked with that has left and moved on to another school, you know, reach out to them now as opposed to a year from now, and just kind of say, hey, this is what I'm looking to do, you know, after I graduate a year from now. And which is something that I kind of did when I was in school, just try to target some places that I felt like I maybe had even the loosest connection to try to help me a year from now. So I'm not scrambling as much this spring of my senior year. And then the second thing too is I know everyone has a different path, and some people have the opportunity to stay on at the school where they were an undergrad at to be a GA. But I'm a big advocate. If you can find a way, you know, to move on and go elsewhere, I recommend it. It's something that I ended up doing, and I think it really helped just kind of build my network going from West Virginia to Illinois. Even though I did end up having the opportunity to stay on at West Virginia, it was, you know, a challenging, you know, dilemma to kind of go through. But I felt, you know, just from a professional development standpoint and getting exposed to, you know, different people, different networks, but also kind of just day-to-day operations of a program and school and you know, offense, defense, it really helps if you can kind of get away from, you know, maybe where you started as a manager. And the last thing I had, I'm going to drop my information in the chat. So if you want to shoot me an email or shoot me a text, feel free. If you ever have any questions or something, let me know. But thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, James. I really appreciate your words. I think you bring up some good points there. David,
Don't worry about it. Yeah. So basically all I want to say is make a couple quick points. My name is davidmyckowiak. I'm the video coordinator at Missouri State on the women's side. I just finished my first year. I was a 3-year manager at Michigan State, also on the women's side. And, you know, when I was starting to look for positions after last year when I was graduating, I had this idea that, you know, someone else said earlier about wanting to go to a Power 5. So I was sending out emails to, you know, all the Big Ten schools and all the ACC schools and all this. And ultimately I landed at Missouri State. And, you know, I think it's actually a great thing to be willing to go to a mid-major because we don't have as many people to work with us. And that means that I get a lot more responsibility. So in addition to, you know, a heavy workload with all the video stuff I have to do, you know, I hire and train managers. I find our scout team that plays against the girls. You know, I have to work with coaches to get their scouts out and all this stuff. So I think that's a really great thing to help with professional development that maybe would be spread out over more people if you're working at a Power 5 program that I didn't really think about beforehand. But now that I've gone through a year of it, I think it's great. And then the other thing that also I think was said earlier is really connect with your assistants. I got my job because I was a hardworking manager and I worked doing video stuff specifically for one of our assistant coaches. And, you know, the saying goes, assistant coaches today are the head coaches of tomorrow. And sure enough, the assistant coach that I worked for is now my boss at Missouri State. So I think that, you know, connecting with your assistants and your VCs and your Dobos is like a critical thing for making your next step. And you know, and assistant coaches are cool people. So, you know, go talk to them, you know, go ask them to tell you about other places they've been, and, you know, it'll help you go places.
Awesome stuff. Connor Williams.
Yeah, I just really wanted to touch on, I know a couple of people have talked about, life in the mid-major level, not just Power Five. I was fortunate enough to go to the University of West Florida, which is actually a Division II school in the Gulf South Conference. And one of the best pieces of advice, just to kind of piggyback on what everyone has said, is do everything that you can with what you have. So life at the D2 level for us, it was very low budget. We didn't have, a ton of stuff. I got gear and stuff like that, but travel opportunity really wasn't there to start. But I did, everything. For my 3 years at West Florida, I was the only manager. We only had one GA, one assistant, and then the head coach. So the staff was extremely small. But in my first year, we had 2 home series to start the season, and then we had 2 travel series. And not traveling, I guess it left out for me. I have family in Tennessee, and our first 2 travel trips were to Tennessee. So I actually drove after my class and went to our 2 travel series in East Tennessee, and then bought a hotel myself in Memphis for our next 2 travel series with Union and Christian Brothers, who were in our conference. And just be willing to do the little stuff. It might seem like an inconvenience to you at the time, but with this, you have to do the harder stuff to be able to prove yourself. And actually, after I did that and I took my own time, resources, and money, I got to travel for the rest of the season. So I earned that. And I think my coaches kind of saw with that I was really invested in doing this and getting to where I want to go. So with that being said, don't look at anything as like an opportunity taken away. Look at it as an opportunity to gather more information, gather more trust, and prove yourself that much more.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good stuff. Eric Simpkin.
What's up, guys? A little bit about myself. I was a manager at University of Colorado Springs, and then worked for USA Basketball for a year after that. And they brought me back as a GA, and then just did 2 years as an assistant at JUCO in South Carolina. So now I'm back kind of to square one. So I don't want to sound like really depressing, but I think I'm a good example of like maybe what not to do at times, because I'm ended up back right where I was after I was a manager. But my advice to you guys would be like, everyone's gonna tell you to work hard. You know what I mean? That's the first thing any coach will say is, work your ass off, which is true. And I'm not telling you guys not to, but it's also kind of bullshit, because there's a lot of times when you also just need to be like, someone said this, in the office. So my thing is I've been reflecting on it, and like, I feel like I did too much of the behind the scenes stuff. You know what I mean? I was the guy doing the laundry, guy cleaning the floor, doing all that stuff. And I thought that would get me kind of ahead of the game. But looking back on it, I was like, dang, I wish I would have had other managers fill in and do that stuff more. And, I could have been in the office and things like that. So even though working hard is definitely like, a great advice, at the same time, you also got to work smart. And don't be afraid to just be in the office and network as much as possible. At the end of the day, that's really what's going to get you ahead. It's not necessarily, how good you are doing the laundry or, doing the dirty things, because anyone can really do that at the end of the day. And it'll get frustrating, but I would say stay the course too. That's the other thing that's been frustrating over the past 6-7 years, especially with USA Basketball, is you're probably going to be with 6-7 other managers, right? And like half of those guys are probably going to be idiots, to be honest. They're probably going to hold you back a little bit. So don't be afraid to I don't want to say burn some bridges, but don't be afraid to kind of move on from those friends that you might have as managers, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be looped in with them. When your coach thinks of you, they want to think about you want them to think about just you, not you roped in with so-and-so and how they work. That'd be my advice. It sounds kind of depressing. I feel like you guys probably think I'm an asshole, but I just wish someone was more realistic with me when I was a manager and things like that.
Those are some good points, Eric. And just to touch on that too, for our beginning of the year meetings with our managers, I always let them know that like the key to growing in this profession, starting off as being a manager, is just being around. The more you're around, the more projects the assistants and support staff will give you. And by doing those projects and doing them well, then you gain their trust. And trust is something that's very, very important. With that, I'm going to shift over to Collin Southworth.
Yeah, hey guys, what's going on? Give you guys a little background. I know a couple of guys were touching on it. I felt like it was touching on maybe going to lower level schools or kind of smaller opportunities. I felt like I had a good story to tell with that. So I originally was just finished my 3 years at Xavier as a manager, and was like everybody else kind of looking for a job this last year. Didn't really know what I was looking for. I knew I wanted a GA, but didn't really care where at or what situation. So I ended up lucky enough, obviously this year it's a lot different with no Final Four, but I was lucky enough to go to the Final Four and happened to just run into a friend that I had met, a coach at like a small NAI school that I worked some camps with, and went to talk to him. Happens to be the GA now, or the GA who was at the school I'm at now. I'm at Ollie NAI school in Illinois. He happened to come by us. I got his number. We exchanged numbers. We talked for a little bit. And then 2 weeks later, I texted him. I was like, hey, I still don't really know what's going on. Like, I'm looking for different places. Everything's falling through. If you know anything. And he told me, yeah, like my old school, here at all of it. We have an opening. I'd love to get you in touch with the head coach and kind of see what goes from there. And then 2 weeks later, I have the job here at a school that I'd never heard of. I went from a D1 Power 5 manager, or big, however you want to call it, to an NAI school. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm a GA, but I'm like as true of a coach as you can think of. Like, I scout, I recruit, I'm on the road recruiting 2-3 nights a week. I'm, like I said, making game plans. I'm on the floor coaching. And so already after 1 year of this experience, I have as much coaching experience as just about anybody my age. And so I've just kind of reiterate a lot of stuff guys have said in terms of don't ever like turn down a situation, or don't ever think, oh, I only want to go to this place, or I only want to be at this level. Because I had never even really considered being where I'm at. And after this first year, I really couldn't have asked for a better kind of start to my career. So just wanted to kind of reiterate and give another positive story of kind of going wherever it takes you, not necessarily setting limits on where you want to go. So.
Gotcha. Good stuff. Fabian?
Fabian. Gotcha, Jake. What's up? That's actually an awesome segue to what I was going to say, Collin, because I went to school at Davidson College, and I went to be a manager there, and I went just because I wanted to still be around basketball. I had no desire until I was basically a graduating senior to really become a basketball coach. So I actually probably failed in different ways my first 2 years there, doing the extra things to help me get that. I would be around, but not all the time. Like, I put other things, ahead of those priorities, which to me made sense in what I was trying to do. And then as I got more committed to the program, I just decided to be around more and more. It was either my junior or senior year. I was, I think, the only manager around for winter break. Everyone else had gone home. So, I mean, kind of what everyone else has been saying, the best ability is availability at times. So, I mean, as long as you're available, and you're around, you can really find ways to help out, and that can benefit you in the long run. I decided to try and go the GA route. I struggled because I didn't make a lot of basketball, because I didn't do a lot of camps. I didn't do a lot of networking. I didn't get to know a lot of things. I was a manager. I didn't really know what I was doing to help propel myself while I was there. And I tried to be a GA, had no connections. I got lucky because I'm from Chicago, and University of Illinois Chicago had a GA opening, and I hit up all the schools in the area, and I got lucky with timing. And, for someone who didn't really plan ahead and didn't do it, I got really fortunate. The coaches at Davidson, head coach Bob McKay was able to give him a call on my behalf, because I put the effort in, especially those last 2.5, 3 years. I tried to do my best as a GA, took it to heart the same way what I did as a manager. Every job was really important. If I was mopping the floor, I was going to be the best floor mopper in the country. That was like my mentality. So, whether it was a film, at a low to mid major, you wear a lot of hats in every role you have. So if you take all that seriously, you never know what happens. And kind of like Collin said, like, coming out of that situation, there was, lucky and timing again. I found myself at a prep school that's kind of on the rise right now. And I was given the opportunity to be the head coach for our post-grad team. So I went from, in like 3 years, I went from being a manager who had no intentions of being a coach to be a head coach. My first head coaching game that first year, last year, there was like Matt Painter watching the game. I was playing Sunrise Christian. They whooped my team by 50. And that was my coaching introduction, coaching in front of high major coaches that, 3 years after not even planning to be a coach at all. You never know how quickly things can change. You just want to keep taking every opportunity super seriously. And if you care about winning with all the little things like a lot of you guys either are doing now or have done as managers, that eventually translate over to all the opportunities you have. Just keep taking everything as seriously as possible. Care about winning, care about the people you're around. Good things happen.
That was a really good piece. You said the best ability is availability. That's a very good saying right there.
I got that from my assistant coach, so he's the man.
That is a great saying. Joe?
Hey, Jake. Thanks for putting this together. I'll be quick. I'm the head manager at ECU, and I'm trying to I figured for this break it'd be a good time to jump on things like this, and I'm also really trying to get better at video. So I was trying to get I don't know if anybody has any input on how y'all went about it, but getting better at sports code, getting better at video editing, Photoshop. How should I attack that?
Yeah, I can attest to that, man. I just straight up don't be afraid to spend a little bit of money. I bought a Wondershare video editor, and then I think when I was a manager, I just got somebody's Synergy account, man. I just kind of went nuts. So especially now with a lot of downtime, it's a good time to learn. But YouTube tutorials are huge, but then just kind of learning as you go. And I've gotten progressively, every time I do a highlight tape for a guy, I figure out something new that I can do and some cool little thing I can add. And same thing with downloading YouTube files for music for him, because every guy wants, young boy on the beat. So I would just suggest just don't be afraid to spend $50 to $100 on a program that you can use for, the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay, thank you. You said Wondershare video?
Yeah, and I think Adobe has a really good one as well. So look into Adobe Video. Yeah, and there's a lot of good ones out there.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would say as well, Ashton, awesome comment in the chat. Don't be afraid to just ask around. People have access, whether the coaches you have now or whoever. Just obviously, this resource is really good with all of us here. We do want to help each other out. We're going to be, the coaches who we want to be around in the future anyway. So, ask people. You never know who has access. I use a Ken Palm from a coach I worked with 3 years ago. It just, if you want something, don't be afraid to ask. Eric or some of the older guys as well that are on here. I know Adam could attest this as well. We've all asked for things in the past. We've all been in positions where we needed help, and so it's something I know I had to get better at. So use that.
Those that don't know much about Photoshop and whatnot, I don't think it's formally announced, but me and Adam, unless Adam has any big changes, I am going to have a seminar on principles of graphic design. It's not going to tell you how to do everything in an hour, because that you just can't, but it will give you some nice baseline fundamentals to, once you do find the software that you do guess what? You'll be able to do stuff with it, because everybody does Photoshop now. We're going to have to figure out ways to better communicate our ideas to separate your school from the pack. So yeah, self-promotion.
Dylan? You still on, Dylan?
Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who spoke. I'm just a sophomore in school right now, so I still got a couple of years to grow and to learn more. So no, this is just, I just want to say how thankful I am for this opportunity. Just be able to connect with you guys, and also just thankful for all the advice you guys shared with me. Being a little younger gives me a chance to still learn and still grow, and it's great encouragement and great, to hear stuff I already had been doing, but then it's great to learn and grow more. So thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, there's definitely great advice going around. Trent?
Hi, I'm the head manager at West Virginia. And Joe, I just want to say something to you real quick. My biggest thing is I learned sports code this past summer and worked a lot with it throughout the season, because our program assistant said it'd be really good to learn and stuff. And the biggest thing I took away from it is don't be afraid to fail with it and play around with it. You're never going to mess anything up permanently. So don't be afraid to get creative with your code windows. Don't be afraid to try and do things that you're not comfortable with, because it just make you better at it in the end. So it doesn't matter you know, you could be doing an NBA game, a college game, whatever you want to do, whatever level. Don't be afraid to mess around with it. Try different code windows, try different things, because you're never going to mess anything up permanently, and you'll probably find something that works for you that you end up really liking. So just play around with it. I think that was the best way I learned how to get better at sports code and synergy, was just playing around with it and figuring out what worked best for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. The more you play around with it, the better you get to know it. I can definitely attest to that. Ian?
Hi, how's it going, everyone? I'm a student assistant at Grayson University, which is an NAIA school. So, Collin, I can definitely go off of what you said with having all those experiences being at a smaller school. One thing that I learned from coaches just talking and networking is don't be afraid to create and find opportunities to create. So one thing is my head coach has always said is see a need, fill a need. And at our team, we didn't have a social media page and we weren't very active on our Twitter. And now this past year, an assistant coach and I took it over and ended up making a social media account. And now we're working on even adding a scout team. So just trying to create and add value to a program to achieve as a manager.
Yeah. Just being as valuable as you can to your program is so important. If anyone else has anything they want to add, we can go ahead and wrap this up.
I think I'd like to add just a couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, this is great. I appreciate everyone being on here and sharing their story and advice and snippets from their career and what's helped them. You know, I'll just say a quick little piece to echo what a few of you guys had already touched on. I was a manager at University of Tampa, D2 school, and I was the same way as a lot of you guys. Like, I was going to go be the GA at Duke. And if that didn't work out, my plan B was I was going to be the GA at Florida. And that's like all I was concerned about was like high major, you know, what I saw on TV. And I was just completely clueless. And I had an opportunity, Adam Gage talked about it earlier, but he was an assistant at College of Central Florida. Well, that's where I ended up going. And the assistant coach at Tampa introduced me to the head coach there, Tim Ryan, who's like a junior college coaching legend. He's in the Hall of Fame. And the guy was like, yeah, I need an assistant. It only pays $7,000. Why don't you come check it out? And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Like, JUCO's not for me. Like, I was a freaking idiot. And thank God the assistant coach at Tampa, Mark Olson, was like, Adam, you need to get your ass in the car and go check it out. Like, you don't know what you're doing. And so I did it like reluctantly. And like, thank God I did, because it led me to everywhere I went in my career. And, you know, obviously I was blown away with my visit with him on campus, and I got to see like what a big time coach he was and program he created, even though it was at a lower level. So again, I would just really reiterate, don't be closed-minded to different levels. Don't think you got to be at Division I, but you know, go wherever. If you, first of all, this business is hard. It's really, really hard. It's really hard to get a job at any level coaching college basketball. So if you have an opportunity, you need to like seriously go after it. And then if you get the opportunity to say no, you know, if they offer you, if you go through it and they offer you the job and you're lucky enough to have a decision to make, then you can make your decision. But don't go into things closed-minded, like, oh, I'm not even gonna, yeah, I've got a great connection at this school down the road. Maybe I can get it. But I don't even think I'm gonna like go after it because I don't want to do that. I think that's really limiting your opportunities. When you're a manager, you don't know anybody. Nobody knows who you are. And so if you can get in a situation where you're working for someone who's well respected, now you can leverage that person's network. And that's what happened for me. I went from a D2 manager where nobody knew who I was. I went to work for Tim Ryan at the College of Central Florida. Still nobody knew who I was, but people knew who he was. And he got me the job to go be the GA at Clemson because of the relationship he had. It had nothing to do with me. Now, I did a great job for him, and he felt confident in recommending me, but it wasn't because I went and met all these people. It's because I went to work for somebody who was really, really high level and well respected. So I mean, if you do have opportunities to be choosy, you should be choosing based off who you're going to go work for, not for level or money or anything like that. So I just want to add that. That was my personal story. Then the other thing I want to say is this is like phenomenal. I appreciate you guys all being here and willing to share and open up and connect with each other. For those of you guys, I think several of you guys are Rising Coaches members. Several of you guys here aren't. This is basically like how and why Rising Coaches started. Lucas could tell you it started in the video room, AKA the storage closet at Clemson men's basketball, where we were
10 years ago now. 10 years ago.
Years ago. They've upgraded since I left. But yeah, we were all jammed in there, the GA, the video guy, managers, everybody was in there. And that's kind of like where Rising Coaches came from. So if this is the type of stuff you're into, connecting with other people who are going through the same stuff you're going through, and having opportunities to learn from people who have gone down the same path that you have, then you may want to look into Rising Coaches. It's $120 a month. So, you know, I know we got some younger people in here. Maybe you're not in a position to be able to do that right now, no problem. But, you know, there is some value to it. And like what Jake said, you know, it's important to, you know, network with other managers. That's kind of like what we've built our brand on is the peer-to-peer mentorship. You know, not sitting here. Yeah, of course we can all sit here and write Coach K letters, and maybe he'll write you back, and that'd be awesome, and you can frame that. But you know, like the people in this room are the people who are going through it with you, and those are the people that are going to be there for you personally, professionally, all along, you know, your whole journey. So, you know, we try to create opportunities for this along with Rising Coaches. So anyways, that's my little plug. Sorry, Jake, I want to make sure I got that in there.
Yeah. Just want to clarify, $120 a year, not a month.
A year, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But I appreciate all you guys hopping on this call. I'm looking forward to connecting with each one of you guys individually. Please let me know your feedback on this, and hopefully we can keep this thing going. So just wanted to thank all you guys for jumping on.
Great job, Jake.
Good job, Jake.
Thank you guys.
Great work, Jake. Thanks,
Jake.
Adam.
Good job, guys. That's good stuff. Jake, unbelievable.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Lucas and Lane.
Appreciate it.
Totally forgot to mention to tell everyone to put their contact information in the chat.
I have the Excel sheet, so I'm going to send it to everybody through email, and it has everybody's contact info.
This is why you're great.
So you guys don't have to worry. Okay.
Goats doing goat things.
That was good, Jake. You happy with how that went down?
Yeah, I mean, at first I was a little nervous about not having that breakout room.
I know. Sorry to drop that bombshell on you.
It's all good.
At the last second.
Luckily, I wrote down some stuff that, like, just in case we think went south, like we had something to fall back on. But I'm glad everyone like really wanted to share. They were really engaging. So that went well, I felt.
I think we need to do this after the quarantine, like once a month.
For sure.
This is something you could head, Jake.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That would be, at that point, we have more of a network too. Like I feel like a lot of managers, especially in my conference, probably have no idea about this. And when we talk, like, people are not hesitant to reach out.
Yeah.
So I feel like they might just not know about it. And so that would definitely be cool to get everybody involved.